Welcome back to Michigan Marksman. Today on the channel we're continuing our ballistic panels test with Spartan Armor Systems III Plus body armor. This is base coated, and if you remember from the last time we tested a panel, I think it was from Caliber Armors, it was also 3 Plus, that spall protection coating came off after the 45 ACP. That's not great. Obviously you don't want it spalling off on you as you're wearing it. Actually, I run these plates as my side panels and as my main panels on my plate carrier, so I'm very interested to see how this test will go today. If it doesn't perform that great, we might be getting some new plates from our carrier. So as usual, we're going to be using our typical rounds for this test, so let's get to shooting. Up first on the panel for a test is 22 caliber out of my Rigger 1022. Let's take a shot and see how well that protects. Let's go take a look. Alright, we hit it with 22, and as you can see, tiny little prick hole. Not even knocking the spall protection coating off. So let's step it up to 9mm and see what type of spalling we get from that. 22 did nothing to that Spartan armor plate, so let's try 9mm, see what it does. Obviously it's probably going to stop this too, but let's see what that spall base coat does. Alright, let's go take a look. Alright, you can see 9mm hit right there on the Spartan helmet, and when I grabbed it I could see there was a slight problem already starting. The base coat is already starting to come off a little bit. That's not ideal at all. The last one we tested survived to 45 ACP, but this one's already starting to come off in huge chunks. Looks like there's some jacket right there. Not ideal. That is a thick base coat on that, but it's already starting to come off after only 2 rounds. So let's see what 45 ACP does to it. Alright, it stopped 9mm, but that base coating for spall protection is already starting to come off a little bit. I bet 45 AC will finish it off, because you know, 2 world wars. Let's take a shot. Alright, we hit it with 45 ACP right there. Now, I'm going to preference this a little bit. I was hating on this plate a little bit after 9mm, but this time it looks like we did stop most of that lead. Sure, there was probably a few chunks that came out under that plate, but it's pretty impressive. So far, it's holding up pretty well on the other side, but I don't know how much longer it is once we get to the rifle rounds. Speaking of rifle rounds, let's do 223 Remington next. So far that level 3 plus plate is holding up pretty well. It's stopping all the pistol rounds so far. Obviously that base coat is hanging on by a thread, but it's still there. Let's hit it with 223 Remington on my AR pistol to see what happens. Alright, let's take a look. Alright, so we hit him right above that eye right there with the 223 Remington. Yeah, there we go, focus. Yeah, we did stop it, but most of this base coat is off, basically, except for over on this side. I don't think it'll hold up for 5.56 or any of the shotgun rounds, but let's let it just sit on there for now. Let's test 5.56 NATO. Alright, so far that plate is stopping the rounds. Let's try 5.56 NATO green tip. Obviously I expect maybe a little bit more damage just to the plate versus what 223 Remington did. But let's take a shot, see what we got. Let's take a look and see if I hit it. Okay, so we hit here with 223 Remington. and then right there with 5.56 NATO. This thing has come mostly completely off now. As you can see, it's a lot thicker than the last armor panel we did, but it's not connected that great. Already completely ripped off. It did last a little bit longer, I have to say, than the caliber armor, but so far you're not getting any more spot protection after 5 rounds, so that's not great. So let's step it up to the 12 gauge rounds, starting with the target loads. That is number 8 shot. All right, so the AR rounds were stopped by the plate, but that base coat is all but gone. Let's try 12 gauge, target load number 8 on it, out of my Stoeger M3000. This thing has a mag 2 capacity of 11 rounds, which is quite insane, but I think it kind of looks kind of goofy, but it's still kind of cool to continually fire that many rounds. Let's take a shot. Let's see what kind of damage we did to that. All right, we hit it with number 8 shot out of the 12 gauge. As you can see, we got a really tight pattern. I have a, I believe it's a improved cylinder choke on it. I'm not sure, but it's a barrel reduction of 0.03. So there we go. Honestly, it might have stopped some of those within that rubber piece. There's a few pellet marks on that, but not as many as I thought there would be from that shell. I would guess. Yeah, it does feel like some of them got stuck in there. Pretty cool. It obviously stopped it. Let's step it up to buckshot. Double up buck. All right, that plate's holding up pretty well besides the base coat. Let's try double up buck. Spartan double up buck versus the Spartan ballistic plate. Let's try it out. Let's see what kind of damage we did. All right, I have to say that's a pretty good pattern for double up buck right there. When it hit it, it knocked this thing completely off, so that's basically not there anymore, honestly. That looks pretty good. Holes through there. Not any dents or anything where the double up buck hit it. Kind of impressed. This plate's holding up, I think, better than the caliber armor. That steel had some holes after the 5.56 and the 2.23, but I'm not really feeling any divots. Yeah, I'm pretty impressed so far. Let's see how well it does against Magnum 3-inch slug. So far that plate's holding up way better than the caliber armor one. So let's try a 3-inch Magnum 1-ounce slug. My shoulder is going to feel it now. I would say we hit that. All right, we hit it pretty hard, and I saw the base coat, as you saw, fly back towards me. Let's see what the steel plate looks underneath. Ouch. Man. That's a big dent. Kind of see it's a little deformed too, but it did stop it, but I'm sure you would feel that. That's quite impressive. Let's do a breakdown. Alright, so let's do a breakdown on how well this plate reformed. Obviously it was not great to see the spalling base coat coming off after the 9mm, but it held up to at least the AR rounds like the caliber armor. It was a lot thicker than the caliber armor, so that was kind of nice to see. So thank you Spartan Armor Systems for actually having something pretty durable and thick on there. Maybe work a little bit more on your connection to the edges. But yeah, let's take a look at the damage there. Obviously the Magnum slug did the most damage. It was actually the first dent. Noticeably, you can feel it there. You can also see it quite well. It also kind of deformed the plate a little bit. It's not as curved as it was before. But unlike the caliber armor, the 223 and the 556 did not leave any divots in the plate. So a little bit harder steel alloy, it seems like. But all in all, it did stop the rounds it should have. So maybe I'll save these plates until I can get a bigger, higher caliber rifle round and test these plates out against each other to see how well they do against that. But that may not be for a long while, so we'll hold on to them. We'll have some other content coming up with shotguns, so we'll see how that goes. Up next on our ballistic test for these panels is Predator level 3 armor. I think it's a little cheapy, so we're gonna see how well that does. I'm not gonna be any bit surprised if something goes through that, so we'll see how well that does. All in all, Spartan Armor Systems plate did pretty well for being a $55 plate, so you'd expect that. Even at this size, that's pretty expensive. The caliber armor I think was like 30, 40 bucks somewhere in there, so this one a little bit more pricier and the steel shows, so all in all I'm impressed. Subscribe, like the video, it helps me out, it helps get me more exposure. Also check out my shorts, I do some here and there as fillers when I'm working during the weekend. So please check out my channel, subscribe if you like the content, and as we say here, just keep blasting.